figure out how to make Charlotte different. And so that was my challenge. And but because I wasn't flipping back and forth. I think that's where it would have been a lot harder for me as an actor to do it if I was flipping back and forth.
Hi, Tricia.
Hi.
I loved you in Lucifer. I also loved you in Burn Notice. So I want to know which character did you have the most fun playing?
Oh, Mom was definitely more fun than Carla. No, I mean, I had a wonderful experience as well on Burn Notice. The first few episodes were actually really difficult because I was filming Battlestar at the same time. So I was filming Battlestar in Vancouver and then flying to Miami to shoot Burn Notice and back and forth. And so Burn Notice would backload me and front load me in terms of if I was in 2 episodes in a row, they'd shoot all of my stuff in the last day or 2 of filming of the first day so that I could fly there and do 2 episodes in one chunk as opposed to flying back and forth. So just physically that's tiring. I stopped drinking, I had stopped drinking coffee. I don't know if any of you are like this, but coffee and me don't mix very well. And so I'd always have my 1 latte, almond milk latte in the morning, and if I had it at lunch, I couldn't sleep all night, and it kind of, spazzes me out, and I had that problem anyway. So, but there's a scene where I'm feeding Jeffrey Donovan chocolate-covered goji berries and pouring him tea, real hot tea, so you can see the steam, into China cups in the back of a limo, moving limo. And I had flown down from Vancouver, worked all day on set in Vancouver, and then flew down, was exhausted, and they didn't have any green tea. So I was like, I'll just have some drip coffee. I hadn't been having any coffee for like 6 months or a year. And then we get in the limo, and it's hot, it's blistering hot in Miami. And when you're in the back of a limo, and you have to turn the air conditioning off for the sound, and you've got like 3 camera guys in there and a boom operator, and so you've got all this body heat, and you're trying to pour tea into China cups, all while spazzing and feeding him chocolate-covered goji berries that are now melting in your fingers. And I'm trying to aim for his mouth with my hands all over the place. And I've got, I'm trying to remember my lines, and they can't fit the hair and makeup people in there because there's not enough room. So between takes, I'm powdering myself. That was a difficult scene. So if you happen to rewatch it, you can look for my hand going all over the place and know I was high on caffeine.
Thank you.
Hi.
Hi.
First up, just your plotline with being the goddess was really amazing and honestly one of my favorites. So what was your favorite part about playing a goddess?
Aside from just the fun aspect of it and her discovery of being, not discovery, but her being, not liking humans and kind of treating them like bugs, but then learning to appreciate some of the aspects of humanity and some things that she got to do, like dance and drink vodka and have sex and whatever. But it was really the family stuff to me that was the most important, and about, at the end of the day, it's dealing with a dysfunctional family drama. Having Lucifer understanding one thing and the truth being something different, but you were shielding your kids from maybe the truth at that time, and dealing with an ex-husband that you want revenge with, but you still sort of love, and not having been able to see your children and being kept from your children. And I've got a friend that's going through a custody issue right now, and it's so hard to see that, and then to exaggerate it and think she hasn't seen her children for millennia or whatever. To me, it was the family drama that really drew me to the character, and then the fun aspects were just a treat to play.
Well, you did an amazing job.
Thank
you so much.
I'm an Air Force combat veteran, so I loved you on Battlestar with all your roles. But what I want to know, and I don't know how much you can tell us about it, but I am excited to see you on Van Helsing as Dracula. So what can you tell us about that?
It's, well, I can't tell you much, as, you know, the show is about to premiere in the end of September. And I'm not in much of the season. I'm kind of introduced, but obviously it's a show about vampires, and Dracula's kind of a head vampire, so they have been, she's been talked about. It's just fun for me to, you know, I think, I could be wrong, but I'm the first female Dracula. But it's not an issue. It's not a thing that we talk about, you know. I mean, the show also with Vanessa Van Helsing being female, it's just, she's just one of the Van Helsings, you know, and so we don't make, that's what I liked about it, and I also was very happy that the hair and makeup department and the production team was, had the same feeling with me about it, that, you know, to play possibly the first female Dracula, I didn't want to come in and be all vampy. Right? I thought that might be kind of cliche. And instead, the character is, I would say, a little bit more creature-like. I'm very androgynous. But at this point in the series, if we're lucky enough to get a next season, I don't know where the character would go, but at this point, when you meet Dracula, she doesn't have, she's been away for a long time. And so she's happy to be out and relishing it, but she doesn't have an equal. So it's been really fun to play because there's not a goddess in her, but there's a little bit of that superiority and like unequivocal, like she just doesn't have a match. So she's very calm, and that's one thing that's just been really fun to play because she's just, one of the other actresses described her as delicious. And that's how I've been kind of, it's been delicious to play. Because she's just evil.
Awesome, thank you.
Hi.
Hi.
Who is your favorite son?
You can't ask that. I guess you can, right? No, you know, it's as a mom, 2 cats. I don't have a favorite. You love them all for their individuality. I think in many ways Mom was, you know, Lucifer was more similar to Mom, so there's a connection there with Lucifer, but I never looked at it with Mom that she had favorites. Dad did, and that's a bone of contention for Lucy with Amenadiel, right? But yeah, I think for Mom, and that's almost one thing she would be proud of, right? Against her ex, is not having favorites.
I also like your shoes.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Hi. When Lucifer sent Charlotte, or his mother, to that alternate universe at the end of season 2, what kind of universe do you think she created?
Ooh.
Just squirrels.
You know, there had been some discussion, and I don't know if the showrunner is going to get mad at me for telling this or not, but there had been some discussion. You know how in the second and third seasons there was a couple of standalone episodes? And there had been some discussion of, after, this was in the third season, of, I'm doing a lot with my hands, sorry. It's like, it's the light. Just, there you go. There had been some discussion after Charlotte, you know, passes on, of doing one of the standalone episodes in Mom's Realm. And I was so excited, because they told me about that at the same time that they told me that Charlotte was dying. So I was like, all right, well, you're killing me, but you're giving me a Mom an episode. But it ended up not happening. I think it was something to do with the network. They were a little bit concerned with being confusing or whatever, but it became then the, to fill in that a little bit more, what I had been told is that, you know, to obviously have the same characters in it, everybody was just going to play a slightly different version of themselves. So Mom had created basically the same thing as Earth, but everybody was slightly different. So I like to make it think that like we didn't get that far because I hadn't written it, but that because she didn't like Chloe, because Chloe was keeping Lucy there, that Chloe would have like a terrible job and just be like have a really hard life, and Dan would be this fabulous, billionaire and whatever. So I thought that could be really fun, but they ended up not doing it because of some network issue with it. And instead it became the issue, or the episode that was sort of a little bit of an alternate universe where Charlotte and Dan hook up and drive away at the end.
Thank you.
Yes.
Do you have more of a personal connection with Mom or with Charlotte?
Probably with Charlotte. Yeah, I mean, Mom was just so much fun to play, and again, like I mentioned earlier, I can relate to the family drama. We all do, right? We all have our own quirks within our own families and things, so I could relate to that aspect. But with Charlotte, I also said this earlier, if you were in the panel earlier, I was going through a really difficult personal year when we were shooting season 3, and so some of Charlotte, even though it's a completely different story than my own life, clearly, it just, there was some of the stuff that she was going through just had a relevance to some part of me, so I probably feel a little bit more connection to Charlotte.
Thank you so much.
Hello. First, thank you for bringing so many different vibrant characters to life.
Oh, thank you.
And so, sticking with the mommy track, just from the previous question, I was wondering what kind of research or study you might have done for portraying the mother goddess archetype in Lucifer.
It was one of those where I was brought in to talk with the showrunners, and they kind of gave me a backstory, because the first episode, if you remember, it's just a scene at the very end. And so I was like, I don't really have much to go on. You offered me this role, but it's what's happening? And I think if I'm remembering correctly, they either did give me the second episode before we started filming, so I had read kind of where it was going, or if it was just a discussion. But that helps a lot when you're sitting down talking to the showrunners about the arc of the character of the season. And I was originally only supposed to be in the second season. I got a bonus year playing Charlotte, but I was only originally hired for season 2. And so to hear the arc of the story, and they actually kind of revealed these like, well, it's kind of like God was tinkering with this toy humanity in the garage, and it was pissing off the kids, and Lucifer was acting out. You were getting annoyed. They were relating it in those kind of terms. So I didn't put too much sort of pressure on myself in terms of, I was more concerned in the moment of how do I play this scene coming out of an elevator where I'm falling into his arms like I'm so distressed and help me. When the next season, I'm not actually hurt, I'm not dying, I'm not, in the next episode, I clearly picks up telling the story. So it's sort of like I forget what the name of it is, but a misdirect, right? And that's what the director was like, yeah, it's a little bit of a misdirect. I mean, in the second episode, you're gonna be fine, and there'll be this whole, I had so much fun with Slutty Dress on Fire. But I did have a moment in the elevator as we're about to roll, and they're rolling right before they yelled action, on the first take, not even on the rehearsals, but on the first take, all of a sudden I'm in the elevator by myself, right? The elevator's doors shut, and I just the heart started going. How do you play a goddess of all creation? What have you gotten yourself into? And I had a little pep talk with myself that I had played a robot, and I'm not really a robot. I've played a serial killer, I'm not really a serial killer. And then the doors open and I fell out. But it did help that Tom was so lovely and welcoming, and I had also worked with the director of that episode. I did a series here in LA called Dark Blue. It was on TNT. Dylan McDermott, and so I worked with Nathan Hope, and that also helps when you have some familiar faces when you're starting a job. Thank you.
Hi.
Hi.
What is the funniest scene you've ever done?
The funniest scene?
Yeah, the funniest.
Oh gosh. There's so many on Lucifer. I mean, it's ridiculous. And Tom, as Tom was saying in the earlier panel, Lauren is. It's really hard to keep a straight face sometimes with Lauren because she's just so damn funny, and she doesn't get to show it much in Lucifer, but in reality, she's just so bright and funny and dry humor. So it's nothing is sticking out in terms of scenes. She sticks out. I had a lot of fun doing the scene where we're trying to get Chloe, the detective, to go investigate that murder, and Lucifer's trying to tell me, the gun, and it's melting, and that was pretty fun, just because Tom, behind Lauren, Tom's just like, I'm just trying to, he's melting. Yeah, we had some fun times on the show.
Yeah, thank you, that's fun.
Hi, so congratulations to you on getting the role of Dracula, first of all. My question pertains to a what-if scenario for Mom. What if she wasn't about to die, like basically she was spewing life? Would she still continue to, sort of the ends justify the means of going to heaven and, breaking in and getting revenge? Or would she eventually come to the realization that she could be hurting a lot more of her children and just stop?
That's an interesting question, because you would like to think that she would grow and evolve, and she certainly had to some extent throughout the season. She was pretty hard-headed, so I think she was probably pretty stubborn and hard-headed in what she wanted to do. But ultimately, maybe if she figured out another way that she could have done something different. Spilling light and becoming too powerful for the human form, it got down to the wire, right? She had to do something, so it started getting, it had to be done. But without that pressure, maybe she could have thought with a level head a little bit more about it, and come up with a different plan.
Thank you.
Hi. My question is, if Charlotte's happy ending was making it to heaven, what would Mom's down deep happy ending really be?
I think possibly down deep is a reconciliation with her ex, and being back home with her children, and I think, other than having her own realm and having all her children, and but I think in a perfect world, I think I think we saw in one episode with God Johnson, there was a moment maybe before she got pissed off at him again and kneed him in the nuts. It's always funny to do those scenes where you're like, it's all fine, you don't really rehearse it, and then you're just like, you see the guy doing the scene, and he's like, she's not going to get me right. She's not going to get me. And you see all the crew around, they're just like, everybody starts going. But there was, and I wanted to play with that a little bit. And it was written into it as well. Written in that there is a moment where you see that there is still a love from her. So yeah, maybe in a perfect world,
So you
reconciliation.
think Mom and God would have their happily ever after?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hi. I was just wondering which one you personally like better, modeling, acting, or voice acting?
I would say acting. Modeling I kind of fell into, but I had an amazing career. I got to travel around the world and meet some fantastic people. But I was ready toward the end of my modeling career to kind of have a little bit more input, and that's kind of where the acting took over. You know, before modeling, I was interested in, I was probably going to become a psychologist. That's where I was thinking in high school. And to me, acting is, it kind of hits that kind of urge in me, or that the interest in me from then is about getting into the psychology of the character, right? Figuring out who this person is and what makes them tick and why are they reacting that way, and so forth. So I think that's kind of what. That's quite all right. And with voice acting, you're acting as well, and it's nice that you can just be in, you know, your flip-flops and, you know, whatever. But if I had to choose one or the other, I like being able to do both, but if I had to choose one or the other, I prefer on-camera acting because you're getting to relate, you're actually getting to work opposite other actors. With voice acting, 99.9% of the time, you're in a booth by yourself. And you're not, a lot of the time, you're not even reacting to the other actor's voice or voice recording. You're just having somebody, like the voice director or whatever, repeat the lines. So there's less collaboration with voice acting. I think sometimes they're all in a group together, but for most of the voice acting that I've done, it's all been solo. So it's fun, and you get to play some extreme characters, but you don't have as much, you know, back and forth.
Thank you.
Hello. Hi. I know that you are a fellow lady writer, and I was wondering if you have any favorite long motorcycle trips that you've taken, or any regular rides that you like to do.
I'd probably say one of the favorite. My goal is to at one time ride all the way across Canada, coast to coast. One of the favorite rides I did was with a girlfriend of mine who was on Battlestar with me, Katie Sackhoff. And we went, just the two of us, and we had a follow car with the camera operator who doubled as a driver, and a guy that did sound. And we went from Los Angeles to Louisiana, to New Orleans, and this was 2010, to help, and we did a documentary about it, and to help raise awareness for the continued cleanup of the BP oil spill. And we just had so much fun. We went across, just her and I, we packed everything on our bikes together, motorbikes, and there was only one day that we got hit with, we were trying to sidestep. Our original plan was going right through where they were having almost tornado force winds, just on the verge. And so we had to reroute ourselves. And that was an intense day. And our back, we had bags on each side, the carabiners, and then a bag on the back. And that was acting like as a sail. So we had to take our, the top bags off, strip down the bikes, so that we could not be blown all over the place. I mean, it was so intense that if we stopped, Katie's shorter than I am, and she was on her tippy toes on the bike. We were on tall bikes, and she couldn't actually hold the bike up. Somebody had to be holding the bike, or she had to park it. She couldn't just stand there and hold the bike because it was blowing so much. She couldn't keep it up. And this was 6 months after I had had massive back surgery and 4 artificial discs put in. So at one point I got really, really scared because I started going dark in my head. I started envisioning being, you know, when you're being blown from one lane to the next lane just by a gust of wind, and you're passing, you know, tractor trailers and stuff. I just went really, really dark. And I got scared and started envisioning going off the road, and then started envisioning like having to be cut open again and all that kind of stuff, getting morbid. But after the surgery, I went really dark, and I've since researched it, and it's a fairly common thing. It's like my brain was still aware during my 7.5-hour surgery. And so I can envision being cut open and everything that was being done well, but I wasn't awake. Does that make sense? But Katie helped me through that. And we sat on the side of the road, and she talked me through it, and that's what good friends do, right?
Hello, my name is Behin, and nice meeting you. I just have a question. Tom said that he had a crush on you, and I just want to know how you felt about that, especially the scene that you were wearing that amazing leather clothes from Mazikeen, and you just take it off because he didn't like it, and you were standing there. How that felt, and you can just explain that a bit.
Yes, well, I think Tom's very kind when he says that. And no, he's a fan of the show, and I mean, he's Tom. I mean, he's a handsome man. So, yes. Skip over that. No, there was no even, it was nothing that way. You're professional, you're working together, and he was engaged, and I was married, and like, there was none of that. He's just very kind in saying that, he had a crush on me. It's more just to say that he was a fan of the show. But that scene in particular was really funny because we're shooting in Vancouver still at that season, and for the entire shooting of that scene until the car peels out, we're behind, they put up these big screens like this, right? So when we finally go to shoot the car peeling out, it's right at the golden hour of, beautiful light toward the end of the day. Well, that also happened to be sort of happy hour time. And there were restaurants on the other side of the road. And so they've been all kind of intrigued of what's going on behind there. There's some sort of filming. And I have a robe on, a bathrobe. And the screens come down, and then you see everybody there. And the restaurant, there was this one particular one that it was just all glass. And there was a row of people like seated at a bench kind of looking out. And they're like, oh, cool, filming and whatever. And it's shoo! And you can just see people's faces. And then, so the director had said we were going to just do it in one take. But then he wanted to do another take. So by this time, now they had their phones out. The first time, you're like, it happened so fast, you get in the car and, you put the coat, the suit jacket on, whatever. But the second time, yeah, I knew. I knew I was going to be on some phones. But, hey.
Lucky people, thank you.
Question for a plot for season 2. When Mom tells Lucifer that she actually sent him to hell and that Dad wanted to kill him, do you think that was actually true, or was that manipulation on her part to kind of turn him against Dad?
I took it as true when we shot it, and from anything that we had discussions about, I don't remember particularly anything specific discussing, but I took it as that was the truth, that she was actually trying to protect him in a way. I don't know, maybe I'm thinking wrong. Again, that's sometimes a question for the writers, but it wasn't written that it was a manipulation. It was written that, that I would make the interpretation that I made, at least. I know there's a little smile at the end of that scene, but to me that wasn't, oh, ha ha ha, like I got him hating, it wasn't that. It was more just, done with me yet type thing.
Gotcha.
I'm going to get back up there. But it wasn't because I had just lied to Lucifer.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, how do you think Charlotte would react to Dan's actions in season 4, kind of like always blaming Lucifer for her death and kind of doing little sketchy things?
Ella? I think she would have having her understanding of Lucifer and knowing the truth. I think she probably would have had more of an understanding of what he's going through. He's grieving, and everybody has a different grieving process, right? Some people get angry, some people get sad, some people get, just everybody. Some people lash out, some people hide away. So he was having moments of lashing out, and especially if Dan doesn't know the truth, right? So I think she would have had patience with him, especially getting to the place that she was getting to. Maybe not at the beginning of the season, but toward the end of the season where she was starting to become a better person. But also with her history of being a defense lawyer and everything, she might have understood a little bit where he was coming from. I think she would have had patience with him.
Hi, how are you?
Good, thank you.
My question is, so I love Juice Caprica 6. I'm a huge gamer, so in MKX, Sonya Blade was my main character because I love Juice Caprica 6.
Oh.
But my question is, you've also done a slew of Hallmark movies, so how is it going from happy-go-lucky peppy movies to being evil Caprica, evil Lucifer's mom?
I think Hallmark movies are the only place I get to play sweet and nice and a mother and well, no, mom. Never mind. I take that back. That's the fun part of acting to me is getting to play all different types of characters, and so Hallmark movies, they tend to be there's a happy ending and there's life lessons and things, so it's fun to play. I have more fun on something like Lucifer, but it's nice to be able to change things up.
But at least you kind of got a happy ending on Lucifer with Charlotte going to heaven. Right?
Yes, definitely, a little bit. I think she would have preferred to stay around longer, but no, it's fun to play different characters.
Thank you very much.
So I remember seeing you on The Librarians as well. So is there a show that films in Vancouver that you haven't been on yet and you're still waiting for the call?
I have, maybe surprisingly, considering the types of roles I do a lot, I haven't been on any of the CW shows. Right? No, I was on Supernatural. But that was so long ago. That was like the original, right? There's now a slew of so many shows. That's CW shows that I'm surprised I haven't been on any of them yet.
I think being Tim Mommenson adjacent, that kind of counts as Psych. So.
Right, Psych would have been fun to have been on. Didn't they just do a movie or something?
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, fantastic. Thank you.
Hi. What was your favorite episode you filmed on Lucifer?
This is like, I always have trouble with favorite questions because
episodes, I guess.
It's like the favorite kid or favorite cat or favorite food. It just depends on my mood. And who's talking back and who's peeing on the floor. And who woke me up by biting my nose. And you like them for different reasons, right? Slutty Dress on Fire was just so much fun to play because it was the goddess at her kind of most fish out of water, but determined, and then the episode where I'm in the courtroom and trying to catch Lucifer and Chloe, and that was fun just because she had kind of caught up to being able to portray Charlotte, and Then there was, an episode where I take Amenadiel to Uriel's grave. And that was, a wonderful episode to film because DB was just so fantastic in that scene. And so I like them for different reasons, right? And then, yeah, it's hard to pick.
Well, those are some great choices. I love all those.
Thank you. We're staying on this side.
Hi. So I was at Santa Monica Pier the other day, and I was curious how you guys did that jump off the boardwalk. Like, did you do it there, or somehow, or was it like not, or was it a stunt person? Like, did you guys do any part of that jump?
That was at the Santa Monica Pier. We did film it there, and we did everything up on top first, obviously, and then we did have stunt doubles take the fall. And what they do is, for that fall in particular, at first I was like, when I read the script, I thought we were going over into the water to begin with. I'm like, yeah, I'm doing that. You're not letting anybody else do that for me, because I do the majority of my own stunts. And, so this one, they're like, no, it's actually a pretty big fall. And what they do is, so it was just them just jumping over, filmed from below, and they run up and they build a thing for them to, because that was actually a pretty high railing, and the way they wanted them to fall and everything. They jumped off into, and the girl that was my double is a good friend of mine, Shauna, and she's doubled me before a few things, and they have them fall into a bunch of cardboard boxes, big cardboard boxes that are folded out, but will collapse. That would still really hurt. Some of those cardboard boxes, if you hit the corner of it, but they have pads on. And then they just, they take all that away, they clean up sand, and then they have Tom and I just kind of fall into frame.
We have time for one more question.
Hi. I was wondering what you think life would be like with Dan if Charlotte didn't die and they were to continue. Because I know he was disappointed he didn't get to use the new waffle thing.
Yes. Who knows, right? Who knows what life holds and what different twists and turns you would take. But they definitely were forming a very strong connection and bond and love for each other. And I think with Charlotte's, having matured into where she had gotten to, I think she still had a ways to go, but where she was getting to, I think, was opening herself up. It's, in some ways I thought they were a little bit of an odd mix to begin with, right? And then it just grew, and they seemed like opposites, but then opposites can attract, right? So it just was something that had built, and it was kind of a slow build, and so I think it would have continued on that trajectory.
Thank you.
All right, let's give it up for Tricia Helfer.